2023 meeting at noon. I guess we'll go to citizen comments. Do we have any citizen comments? There being no citizen comments, we'll move to the next item. Do we have any corrections or additions to the agenda? I don't have any. Okay, so bearing that there's no corrections or additions to the agenda, we'll move to the active agenda. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes of June 13th, 2023.
Chairman, we have a correction on staff comments in minutes.
Okay.
Instead of, it says a special meeting will be scheduled on July 20th, 2024.
Oh, okay.
Should be 23.
Yep.
Good.
So we'll change that to
You sure?
2023.
Are we 24 or are we in the 24?
The year's wrong.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. Any other
Yeah.
corrections or
Oh, wait a second. Now, which one were you looking at?
under unfinished and new business?
Unfinished new business.
Oh, okay, well, then still.
And in section B, the date to 2023. All right, that bearing the only change. Any other changes? We have a motion.
I move we approve.
I'll second it.
We accept. I move we accept the minutes.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Okay, motion passes. All right, the next item on the agenda is approval of invoices. And looks like we have an invoice for Douglas Law for $1,575.
$390.
Oh, is that, oh, $390, sorry, I was
Yep.
looking at the bottom, that's the detail, so for $390.
That doesn't always keep up with whatever payments have been made because it just gets generated when it gets sent out.
Sorry about that, so $390 for services rendered in May.
And so the other invoices that had earlier May dates, they've already been paid, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I move we pay the invoices totaling $390.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Who's second?
Just put 10. I heard everybody's.
I know everybody did it at the same time, so, okay.
Gotta pick one.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against. Motion passes. All right, so the next item is review a financial summary. And once again, this is just for information only. I think she's putting them up on the screen as well, so that makes it nice to see.
Yeah, so this just reflects the difference between last month and this month. You can see the totals down here at the bottom. The debt service, of course, is right here, so bank balance is 1.4. We have debt service for a total of 852. And then we keep track of what is owed to the city right here for East Orchard Sewer. And I'll answer any questions you might have.
I didn't see anything, I didn't see any surprises. Do you?
No.
No.
All right, so with that just being information only, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the FY 2023 budget amendments. And I'll let Shannon kind of take it over. She's gonna put it up on the screen and talk about those amendments.
So what I included in your packets was the original FY 2023 and an amended FY 2023, as well as a memo regarding Revenue Allocation Area 5, East Orchard Sewer. So for those of you that were on the board last year at this time, you were asked to make a decision on what you wanted to possibly do with East Orchard Sewer with the money that was available. So what I'm going to present this, and what we're looking for is a discussion on East Orchard's number 5. The reason why the timing is important is because if you were to, like last year, make an additional bond payment, we have to let the bank know of that mid-August. And also it will affect how I publish the FY23 amended budget as well as it will affect the FY24 budget.
Right.
Okay, so first I'll just run through the differences. What I did today was I highlighted the differences between the two just to show you what we are possibly changing. So all of the increment that is coming to the URA has been updated, some slightly. For example, 400,000 in Area 4, bumped it up to 410. East Orchard Sewer, that one has quite a difference. 400,000 was estimated, and this is 620,000. And I should mention that I got these numbers from the county. So I worked with them, I worked with Missy, and she gave me what the URA should be expecting. And I rounded them, just FYI. 460 for Brighton and 100,000 for downtown. I also changed the interest on all of these. They were estimated to be very low, and I went through and just looked at our financial summary and estimated here as well. For the project costs, this is what we actually made payments to, so it was estimated 149, the actual was 206. Part of that I think was timing, but that is the actual number that was paid out and ended that project on East Main. This is an estimated number of what we will pay by the end of this fiscal year for design services. For the Mountain Waterworks, the total contract is 171. So I put 55 here as an estimate, and then in FY24 I put 125 for the remainder of the payments to that design work. And then $100,000 in Area 6 Brighton, that is a estimate of what also we will pay in 2023 for the remaining local match on the design of Brighton. I did change this number. This is the debt service. When we started out FY23, it was 589. My guess is interest came into play, and now is at 628, 519. So I didn't highlight any of these, even though these changed, and they changed because of math. So I didn't feel the need to change any of those. But those are the changes I made based on information given by the county, and then what we know of the payments we have made or are going to make by the end of FY23. So if you look at my memo in the packet, I line out the East Orchard Sewer and what your options are moving forward, if any. You may decide you are not going to make an additional bond payment because we will hear from Joe Hoffman. He's here today to talk about the design, which might talk about where you would want to go. And then maybe what we'll do is have you talk about that first, Joe, because that could lead this conversation more than anything. So if you wouldn't mind talking about the design, where do you think we're at with the design, and when that will end, and then what could be the possibilities moving forward. And I have the gravity map here, if that helps.
Okay, and like how far back did you want to go about
Just
East
your
Orchard
current
project?
design.
Okay, no, I understand.
Yes, so, and actually I have that document here too. And just to remind the board, essentially, the agreement was to design segments 1, 17, 18, and 19, and a 30% concept on 7. Now this did include, design does include things like drilling, you know, some data collection type things that go along with that. So from here, and then possibilities moving forward.
Okay, no, that sounds great, thank you. No, so we have, I'm expecting kind of the 90% submittal from Mountain Waterworks for us to review basically in probably the end of this week. I know I've looked at a couple of things that as they progressed, but they haven't kind of got to that line yet. But it's getting very close. We had gone in and did some rock boring there. We also, because you were talking about Brighton, at the same time that we had the kind of the the outfit to do that in town. We did that along Bryden as well, because the storm line that's planned for Bryden, when it goes into, try to make sure we knew how deep the rock was, where you have to break it apart instead of dig it. Because that really just defines the economical design for both the sewer and for that.
There's rock.
There is. There is. There was in the main that main project. You know, we removed quite a bit in Grell at that time because it's pretty flat. So we had to be deep on the east side to keep the slope and go all the way to the block over. And so that's where a lot of the rock excavation happened in that first time around. So, and yeah. Anyway, so we had mentioned about 17, 18, and 19. That's probably the main thrust of the project here. If anyone kind of wants a refresher about where that is. So generally, we're looking at, this project is trying to push the sewer service to the biggest areas that are still kind of unserved and on the downhill side. So since everything in the orchard is generally sort of tips to the north and a little bit to the west, that means trying to extend kind of a trunk line along that western boundary further, you know, basically as far south as we can, where the surface grades still and the rock depths let us do that economically. So if you have any questions, I guess I'm happy to jump on those.
Sure, so the
Go on.
design is these three segments here, 17, 18, 19, as well as one up here. And then a 30% concept on this one here, number 7.
Yep.
And so when the design is done, so if you're at 90%, fine, you would review that, give comments back, you're gonna get a final back in a month?
Yeah.
Okay, because this is later in the month, July, our next meeting is August 8th.
Okay.
That, you may have it by then, but maybe not. We'd probably be looking at September to have that design done.
It can depend a lot on how complete one person's 90% is compared to another one. If
Okay.
it's pretty minor comments, then that
Yeah.
turnaround might be really fast. But
So let's say it's September, when we would know, and with this design comes a concept cost of, well, not even concept, it's design cost.
yeah,
So it's an
their
engineer's
opinion
estimate.
of, yeah,
Yes.
of the cost.
And so we
there.
would have an engineer's estimate of 1, 17, 18, and 19, and then a concept of 7, so that's 30%, that's higher level. They haven't done as much study there.
Yeah.
And so what that means is that if the URA wanted to proceed on with more possible construction of East Orchard sewer projects, then you may want to not make an additional bond payment because you want to see how much those, we're really close to seeing how much those segments might cost.
And as a refresher, 1, 17, 18, and 19 were all areas that with gravity feed and without a pump station, right?
Yes, and 7 is as well. I mean, we wanted to flesh out some of the details there just because we knew that it was both a little more, like, we knew that there would be some challenges there that'd be good to kind of make sure that we had confidence that it could go in there, whether or not the intersection with Lindsay Creek Road would need to kind of
Can you highlight
change
the
in
7?
elevation.
Yes, 7 is right in the middle here,
Thank you. Okay.
right here.
So,
Is the yellow line what's been completed?
yes.
Okay.
Yep. With the original project.
Yeah.
Number 4 has also been constructed, and
Where's 4?
So I guess I have an outdated map, I need a
no,
new
sorry,
one.
I'll get you a new one. And not quite half of 10. That the new development has extended what's gone in there.
That's grill. It is.
10 is Alder.
Alder.
Yeah.
Yeah. 7 is on Grell,
Okay.
Yeah.
like 2100 block of Grell.
Yeah, it's that low
Yeah.
dip at the head of Lindsay Creek Road.
I did have a property owner on the 2100 block of Grell reach out to me and say, we see some things going on, we're so excited, are you bringing sewer to us? And I had to look it up and I was like, oh darn it, that's not, that's only the 30%, but maybe someday. So, so that's where we're at with these projects. So I wanted to get that information to the board, because if you did want to move on, you may not want to make an extra bond payment. Or you may want to make an extra bond payment. Sorry, go ahead.
Shan Profit Housing Complex there, though, that was on sewer, and that's on 21st
Yes.
Street.
Yeah.
That's the older piece that he just said.
Oh,
was not
that's
very
all
old.
there.
Yeah, and they'll have to construct more kind of infill as they put more in.
And so you could not only move forward with construction, but based on what the 30% design says for 7, you could also move on with the possibility of fully designing 7 if that is something that the 30% concept would lead you to. I mean, basically what I think we would be looking for, Joe, when the design is done, is for the city to come and say, here are possibilities of moving forward.
So our decision on bond payment or wait on the bond payment because we have money to spend it on would come after the August or September meeting?
So the meeting is August 8th. We most likely will not have final design done by then. And so the reason why I'm bringing this to you today to say, do you want to make an extra bond payment, is because it affects the budgets. And budgets we must do in August. And so if the group thinks that they do want to keep their options open and not make extra bond payments, that's totally fine. And you can decide next year that you want to make an extra bond payment. We're just doing it because of timing right now.
I was just, sure, I was just going to say, I think that we would have a good cost estimate in time for your August.
For August.
Even if the entire design and spec packet wasn't complete, I think that you'd have a cost estimate that you could base that decision on if that's soon enough.
I believe we have to publish, so we're having public hearings on our budgets August 8th as well.
Okay.
And I have to publish those. I mean, I suppose you could put in a draft, for the 2023, you would say, we are taking public comment on this budget and then we are amending it. So I suppose you could still amend it in the August 8th meeting, if you so choose. But the FY24 does depend on it, and so I could put a bond payment of, let's say, another $300,000 in it, publish it, and then we decide not to because we want to move forward with projects. Sorry, I'm just stepping through this in my mind. And then you decide to amend the FY 2024 budget at your meeting. And then we would publish it.
So am I reading the budget right, that last year we were anticipating 400,000 tax receipts for that area, and we,
Yes, and now that we have
doing
more
620.
information, yes, now that we have more information, it's estimated from the county to be at 620 this year. So with the debt service of 628, this is the FY 2024 budget right here. With the debt service of 628, you would, at the end of 2024, assuming you have not made an extra bond payment, $1.2 million to use for future projects.
That's after you pay the debt service?
So the actual amount will be 1.8, but we have to keep this kind of locked up.
Right.
And so this is the funds available.
Okay.
Yep.
So has it always been plan of the city to get everyone on sewer in that East Orchard area, or is it just those that want to hook up?
Well, I'm gonna let Joe answer that.
Okay. And so, because that is kind of a big question. I can give the 10-minute complete answer or the 2-minute answer. So the short version really is that, the history for the other sewer districts up there, you get into the 50s with the Lewiston Orchard Sewer District. They had sewer water kind of returning in all of the local channels next to the road. They finally voted a sewer district into existence, taxed themselves extra, and basically converted those whole neighborhoods. It happened when they reached about 1 home per acre in density. That same sort of pattern, density increased just adjacent further to the east, and you get Central Orchard Sewer District doing the same thing, reaching a density of about 1 home per acre in the 70s. It gets untenable enough that they vote to establish a sewer district and assess themselves money and put in a system. East Orchard Sewer, when this was kicking off, was getting to the same density of about 1 home per acre. So I think we went out and we did a little bit of mapping in the spring. We could find a lot of springs on the downhill side of that neighborhood. Actually, if you want, I'll pass that around. It's kind of interesting. So it was really kind of showing the same sort of distress as those other neighborhoods, and similar soils. You wouldn't really expect the experiment to go differently that time. The difference here was to try to get, to find a funding way to do this where it doesn't take them increasing a whole new sewer district, a new entity, and converting everybody, is if we can put those in there and get enough people to convert to keep the density down. Maybe it doesn't require all the neighborhoods to get onto public sewer, but the concept to date has always been voluntary, trying to get people to do that. The only circumstance I'm aware of where someone would have to connect is if the health department says, no, there is public sewer adjacent. If you had a failed septic system, you have to connect to the public sewer. We're not going to give you a permit for a new septic system. So did that kind of answer the question?
Well, it answers some of it. Another question on that. I guess when they opened it up, the idea was that they were going to try and take all the effluent out of out of Lindsay Creek. That was the reason why they took the sewer up there in the first place, was to eliminate that crap coming down in the system. And so I guess the question I have, are we going to be able to leave it open long enough and collect enough money to do the lift station for some of those people out there that would like to be hooked up to the sewer but can't because they have to do a lift station to get them taken care of?
Yeah. So we got
I think part of that answer might be, though, also, there's a difference between what the city wants to build out and what the URA has determined is blight and wants to help fix through the East Orchard sewer. So those might be 2 different goals, but they have the 2 same solutions, if you will.
So how many years do we have left on this allocated area?
This one,
Because I'll tell you how much.
2037 is the term.
What is it?
2037. This one opened in 2017.
14 more.
So possibly we could get enough money to.
600,000
We'll see.
a year.
We'll see.
And we have
It's a
also,
big variety.
gone begging to the state to try to, get some of, because it really should score very highly on some of their wastewater stuff, but we've struck out mostly because they say, oh, this DQ and the state money, they really want to emphasize communities under 10,000. And so even though like this neighborhood, it's essentially like a sewer district with I don't know what the population would be, but something probably in the 3,000 to 4,000 range. But they just, no matter how well it scores, it kind of gets eliminated on that criteria at the state. On the pressure side of it, from a cost benefit stuff, we really want to, like the idea, especially with, if there's gonna be new development, to try to get sewer within one block of all of the areas we can serve with gravity, so that if there's a new development on you know, they're within a block of public sewer, and that could be extended at that time. And then, you know, pump stations are expensive to build and expensive to maintain. I've talked a little bit with the school district, because they have issues at Tammany School. So if they're interested in trying to make that change and bring that up on par, you might see that the idea would be to have a larger sort of regional lift station that serves that lower corner of COSD or something. But yeah, how we would serve the area that surface drains to Tammany Creek is, yeah. That's more expensive and more complicated than the gravity network that we're working on so far.
Right. Yeah.
But we are able to serve that area through that number 7 link. Like it's kind of right at the verge, but that's what we designed that Grell Avenue sewer to just keep it low enough that we could push that out on Grell and serve kind of that neighborhood that's south of Grell.
So section 7 off of Grell, I know like up there, I don't know if it's 10 or 7, isn't that the area where there's like a lot of new construction, like they're putting in a lot of townhouses?
Yes.
So are they feeding into one of those yellow sections, or would that be,
Yes.
or would that be 7?
Yeah, I mean, that development is possible because there's sewer there.
Okay,
At that small
yeah.
footprint, they could never put in enough septics to
So
make that work.
that orange line under the 10 actually should be yellow maybe then? Is that, or
A portion
on
of
Alder?
If you can kind of see through where there's a field,
Yeah.
a green field, that's about what they have built to
Yeah,
serve the
yeah.
houses on both sides of Alder Avenue so far. Yes. And I have, I can give you guys each, this is a map that I made. I only brought 5 copies, but you can kind of pass and give those to people that kind of show what's been built so far. So.
Because there's like a whole new section of homes, is that, the section of homes that's going off of Powers, kind of out toward that, off of 21st Street up in the Orchards, there's like a bunch of new
Oh,
homes,
Greco.
that's like, yeah, Greco.
Gravity Estates.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the yellow line does go in
Okay,
front of
so
those.
that's not,
I believe a couple of those parcel on septic though.
okay, that's what I was wondering.
Their first phases that were in, some were on septic and some are on sewer now, that are converted. But that newest phase, I think, is all on
They're on
public
sewer, yeah.
Which is what that one green line I drew in sort of represents. It's on the bottom right of your, that
Mhm.
goes into that next
Oh,
phase.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's at the city limits?
The initial investment in the trunk main that's gone in has spurred quite a bit of development in that area. We've got at least 3 subdivisions I'm aware of that would not be happening there without that initial trunk line having gone in. So it really is spurring growth and development in this area.
That's
Well, I
good
think
news that it's in
that's-
town.
It's reflective of the estimate of 400,000 and the actual of 620 for the increment. I think that's what that's telling you.
Even though one of the subdivisions isn't in the revenue area. So even without that,
There's one to the north.
Even newer things beyond. And then, of course, so it sounds like we may have a design for the August 8th meeting, and Joe can fill us in on what those costs might look like and what possibilities might be looking forward on East Orchards number 5.
So we'll just table, is that what you think?
You can if you
Table?
want to. What I need to do though is I will publish, and I, because I don't have direction to do anything otherwise, I will publish as I amended it here. And then FY '24, you can see I have the same amounts for the increment. I put 125 here, and that is for the rest of the design. that we will owe the city. 600,000 here on Bryden, as a possibility of moving forward with something. And that might not be city, that might be LOID. Because the URA does have a contract with LOID. So they may do some work and you wanna have some budget availability to do that. You will notice here on the professional services, I did make it for all 4. Currently, we do all 3. We don't include East Orchard Sewer. I have not found the reason for that, except for that I believe it was because of the bonding and that they wanted to make sure that monies available went to build up to have that bond. Right, so now that we are past that, I do believe we can start charging administrative costs, and I think it's the fair thing to do, is to spread those administrative costs across all 4 revenue allocation areas. Publications are just, like I have to do the budget, that type of thing. And so I will leave this as it is as well. These are estimates on increment and costs.
So what was the payment to the bond, was it 300,000 last year?
Yes.
So that's what we would be anticipating?
It was actually about $150,000 payment plus 300,000. And that doesn't have to be 300,000. You could make $500,000 payment if you wanted to. It's all up to you. But it will need to be paid eventually by 2037.
And is there a
So
lot,
if this was,
sorry, is there a lot of interest being charged on that?
It's 2.84%. So if that's the difference between 628, right, and
Yeah.
589? Yeah, it's 2.84 for the first 10 years.
if it was my household or business budget and I had a $200,000 windfall income over what I was expecting, personally, I would tend to go with some debt reduction on that amount. That's just my philosophy.
And we can budget for that too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you
That's been the
decide.
stance we've had
Yeah, that's what you did last.
historically.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that at all.
If you decided to do that, what I would do is I would just add 200, let's say 200 here, 300, whatever you wanted to do. And then, of course, it changes this 879, which is carried over to FY '24, and then changes this by 200,000. So it'd still be $1 million.
And we could always amend it if we get some different information later.
You can, yes.
Will you make a motion?
Yeah, Chairman, I would move that we budget for an additional $200,000 bond payment
Second.
Okay,
in East Orchard Sewer.
so we have normally we do 300, you wanna do 200, is what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to make to budget for a $300,000.
200.
Or 200, sorry, $200,000 bond payment, thank you for correcting.
You bet.
Additional.
Additional. Any other discussion?
That's additional to what we were gonna make a payment, or
The
that is what?
payment, the normal payment's about 149, 150.
Okay,
And so
340.
this would be
got it,
200,000.
okay,
Yep.
okay, yep,
All right,
yep.
okay, no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion passes. All right.
Just a comment,
Oh,
or should I wait until? I think with some of the things that Jim's talking about and what's been going on with the development up in the orchards, and the current climate and culture about the URA within the county and the city, I think it's important that that is touted, so people know that there's some positive things that are happening because of this entity. So I don't know how we get that word out. You know, I don't know, there's some media people or some other kinds of things, but I think that's something that people in the city and in the county need to hear about.
Good point, Greg.
Tweet it.
All right, so we'll move back onto our agenda. We're gonna review the draft budget for 2024. There's an action item here, and we've kind of already looked at it.
Yeah,
I'll let you kind
basically-
of go back over and.
Sure, yeah, so 2024, again, changing the increments, changing the interest. Adding 125 here, making the $11,000 spread out between, and just so you know, the services, what I mean by that is legal, City of Lewiston's contract here, audit, and actually that's now, we just got that from Fresno Gage, so it'd be 5,100, it's a little bit different there. Insurance and RAI dues, you know, I just rounded up anyway to 11,000, you know, divide this by 4, get $11,000. So that's how I came up with that amount. Spread it out between 4 instead of 3, and then this will be 1.017 because of this $200,000 bond payment. And so I'm just looking for direction to publish this and put it on the agenda for next month.
All right.
Just a question. So page 11 of our computer here has 4 of the columns. Is there a place on this laptop where the other column would have been?
That's fiscal year '24.
So, yeah, budget FY '24.
Yeah,
That's what we've got. Did we have the page that you just?
Yep, that's what we're
Yep.
looking at, it's on page.
Yeah. This is just math on the, this is just extra math.
It's E. I think it's E.
Extra
Page
math.
11.
Just total.
They do extra
E11.
math.
Well, it says, it's like E on the active agenda down.
That's right,
and
extra
then
math, that's
page
what I
11,
said.
it's
I'm sticking to it.
Let me see.
It's the E1 draft budget.
You're gonna highlight and get E.
Yep.
Oh, maybe unfinished.
Yeah.
It's in the active agenda, it's E,
Active. I'm active.
and then E,
I'm touching E and then
and over to the left, it should be page 11.
when I touch E, I'm not getting anything coming up right here.
Yeah, page 11 right here.
Well, that's the one I had, but it only had the 4 columns. It didn't have
This one has,
the one that.
this one has 4, this is just, you can ignore this. This is totaling these things to the side.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's just.
They don't matter.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
sorry
had
about
the-
that. I should've
had the
given-
page
There's
11.
mine then,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, there's 4 columns.
So the
This
one
is
that's
the
on
budget.
page 11 is what she's asking for us to approve so she can publish.
This one.
I would, Madam Chairman, I would move we approve for publication this budget with that $200,000 change in East Orchard.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve to publish the URA budget FY '24. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. And now the sad part, going down the agenda. The next item on the agenda is the URA attorney ending representation and search committee council. So Jen Douglas.
Yeah, just to add a little bit to the letter, I'd love to tell you this is for some interesting reason, like I'm moving to Italy, or I suddenly become thin-skinned. But when I started working or I took over Ed's practice and added it to my own in 2017, I was representing 1 city. Now I'm representing 7. And I, as you know, hired an associate because at one point we were turning away about 75% of our other work, not cities. And now I think we're down to 50, but it's climbing back up. And URA is one of those things that requires quite a bit of expertise that I have to keep up on, kind of like cities or any other practice area. So I'm spreading myself a little thin and I'm trying to narrow my practice areas, and all that said, I am sorry, but I've dragged this out and thought about it and agonized and gone back and forth on it long enough because I have deep appreciation for the work that the URA is doing. But you know, I wanted to really give this some thought when Joe Hewlett retired, and then Joanne talked me out of it, and then, you know, then I had some more conversation with
I was
Sheila.
gonna say that, I tried to talk you out.
And I have gotten so busy, and I think it's best that the URA really consider, if possible, just hiring someone who does a lot of URA work. And how you structure that, of course, is up to you. I'm happy to talk with whoever you find is incoming council and say, here's my observations and perspective. But I'm going to have to make a few changes in my practice, so, again, sorry.
Well, we appreciate you. I've only worked with you for a short while here. I know your values, so we are going to
Thank you.
miss you.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
So it's good news, Jennifer, that the law practice has grown. It's bad news
Allegedly.
leaving us.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. I've been dreading this meeting and all of your dirty looks about quitting. But I promise you, it wasn't something I did lightly or without considerable thought.
Well, thank you. We appreciate.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Okay.
So you'll answer
I'm
the way you want
looking
me to.
at the urban renewal billing rate, and you bill the URA at a rate of $150, right?
Right.
And what do you normally bill your clients in your private practice?
250.
Thank you. So you've been doing some charity work for a while.
Well, I think it's important for tax-funded entities, if you have some expertise in that, to try to offer that. Is it profitable? Was it profitable at Ed's rate at $100 an hour with our overhead? Absolutely not. So yeah, it's sort of my way of doing a public interest work at a lower rate. And I do the same thing for nonprofits.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right, in reviewing your letter, it looks like you'll be able to help us for 90 days, so.
If for some reason you can't get legal counsel before 90 days, I'm not saying I'll just go out in a ball of flames and leave you alone. But that's to put a little pressure on you to do a search, talk to your outside counsel at Elam and Burke, I would say first. If you don't want to pay their rate for, the first shot at the number of issues that come up here, then, Megan Conrad might have some good ideas. I've already had to deal with her about the fact that I'm resigning.
So,
Yes.
Jennifer, you mentioned that it would be wise for us to go to legal representation that has experience in URA. That rules out the Lewiston.
I think so. I mean, I want to be careful about saying too much, because if you're resigning, you can't have it both ways. You don't get to say, well, this is who I think you should hire coming in. That needs to be your decision. It's every time someone hires legal counsel, whether they're an individual or an agency, that is very specific to you. But here's the problem with general practitioners. General practitioners, if they don't ask a lot of questions and keep their ear to the ground, attend all the meetings, they're gonna miss potential issues that they can then, brush up on with outside specialized counsel. And then sometimes you end up in litigation. So you're paying less initially for somebody to sort of keep an eye on things and be available for emergencies or questions that get emailed to them. But then if you end up in litigation, the money you saved is often spent and more. So that is not a conundrum for me to solve for you, just letting you know that that is the conundrum I've seen for an agency such as yourself and other agencies like you. It's just a common problem that you have to solve when you're deciding how you set up your legal counsel.
So I guess, Shannon, you'll be reaching out to Elam and Burke
Yeah.
and starting that
Yep.
search, so, all right?
Tim, you don't have a law degree, do you?
No. And absolutely very small amount of URA experience.
Yeah, exactly. I know, that's why I was looking forward to having you here, because I am very inexperienced with URA as well, so.
Well, there are options where you can bring in experienced counsel. I think it's worth it. Even just from a preventative standpoint, it's worth it.
All right, well, we'll move on then, I guess, if anybody else has anything you want to add. All right, so
So we'll move on to the unfinished and new business and go to board comments. Anybody has any additional comments about anything?
Yeah, I'm gonna couch my words in how I say this, but I think, I believe, from what I've been hearing and what different events that have been going on, that the URA is kind of being put under a microscope. And I think the reason for that is not that someone thinks that it's not working, but that maybe it works too well and that they want to try to get rid of it. Since I've been involved with this, and it hasn't been that long, I felt like that has happened. The other part of that makes me concerned is that we're continuing to lose institutional knowledge of this body. With you leaving, no, I get the whole thing. With you leaving,
You can always call.
you're the guy. I mean, the rest of us have been pretty short timers. We don't have a lot of the knowledge to be doing this. So I think we need to be very cautious in who we listen to, very cautious in what the motives are of people who might have some ideas about how this body should be working and moving forward. And that's kind of where I am about it. I think we need to be extremely cautious about it. We're vulnerable right now, I believe. So, my 2 cents.
I agree with those points.
I think the other issue on it is anytime you've got taxes the way they are right now, you're gonna have people that are gonna scrutinize every aspect of government.
Thank you.
So that's where we are right now. And we see it at the county, we see it at the city, you see it at every place you're donating money or giving money out to help different agencies. I mean, we have probably 30 requests every year during our budget. We have maybe 5 of those that we can throw a little bit of money out to them. And so people get really, they go off their rocker, as far as I'm concerned. They come in and they want, $50,000 for this or that. So we that are elected have to be real careful how we spend tax dollars. I think sometimes that makes it pretty tough.
Agreed.
I appreciate your comments, Rick, and I suspect they're correct. But I can't think of a URA that I know of. I'm not no more knowledgeable than the rest of you. But this URA has been so basic, so conservative, in that it's been completely developing infrastructure that brings a greater return to the city and the county and the port and the school district down the road. And I think it's a hard URA to question, other than if you don't want TIF money, you don't agree with that concept. Then, of course, you don't agree with URA. But this group over the years, this commission, has been solid on good infrastructure, and that's it. And it's pretty hard to argue with the merit of that, I think.
Well said.
One, I think it's also important, like from my perspective, is that people that normally are just confused, they're just uneducated about what we do. So I think it's important for us being new to educate ourselves so we can communicate it better to other people. So just a plug for us to try to educate our own selves. So.
When you talk to the normal citizen and say, how would you like to talk URA, the eyes glaze. It's not an easy concept to find an audience that wants to listen to it. You find more detractors, or potential detractors, then you can have a discussion.
Well, I had a question, I guess, kind of in unfinished end comments. It seems like at the last meeting, We maybe heard that the Brighton area was going to have a different focus on it. And I either forgot or didn't go to the council meeting that talked about that. Wondering if we had a quick report on, is there a change in the focus on the Brighton? Or
I guess we can do that in staff comments and turn it over to you.
Yes, the answer is, I was also not at that meeting, but I know that the council was given options. Basically what you can do for funding. And also the possibility of, you know, do you move forward with this 5-lane section? Knowing that if you fund it how it's traditionally funded, it's gonna take you out to like 2053 or something like that. So I would say nothing's changed, but I could invite the Public Works Director, Dustin Johnson, to come to the URA meeting and see if he'll give us the same presentation or something similar, just to let us know where it's at. We are paying for the design, or, you know, partially paying for the design, so I think it wouldn't be out of line to ask him to come and talk about it.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Okay, I'll see if he can come to the August meeting.
Thanks.
starting to accumulate some meaningful funds in that area.
I'll ask Barney Metz from LOID if he also wants to attend, because we do have that contract with him too, and it would probably be good for him to hear what Dustin's saying and maybe ask questions, and just so we can get a bigger breadth of knowledge of what's going on.
That sounds good.
In the meantime, everybody show up on Brighton about 5 o'clock and see what you think of that area. That's it, usually bumper to bumper for
Oh, I know.
all those blocks.
Yeah, it needs work.
Backed up, yeah.
I was up there at 4 o'clock yesterday, at 4th, because it's like, I'm not taking Brighton, I go down to Preston, I used to live in that area, and so, and it took me 3 minutes just to take a left, to go down by the medical clinics to get to Preston, because it was so busy, so much traffic coming down the hill. And it's a reality. And I'm also, as a city councilman, I'm also hearing people writing letters who have lived on Brighton and they're not happy with the idea that they're gonna lose space, that it's turning. But that's the nature of what cities are. I mean, transition is painful, always painful. And I mean, I was at the Selway, and the guy I was in the campsite the other way, he lives up there. I said, where are you guys from? Oh, we live in Lewiston. Oh, whereabouts? Oh, we're on Brighton. And it was like, oh, God. Hi, my name's Rick.
Where are you from?
And their thing was, I said, how long have you been living on Brighton? And they said, since 1987 or something like that. And so, you know, that becomes their neighborhood, that becomes something that they're anchored to. And to all of a sudden watch it change into this commercial zone area that's not slowly, but it's happening. And
Well, it has been going on for a long time though.
Yeah.
That's been arterial as long as I've been in this town.
Yeah.
That goes back quite a ways.
sure.
Well, if I were a resident of Brighton, I'd be unhappy with the change that lurks ahead. And I'd also be unhappy with the amount of traffic in front of my residence.
Yeah.
People were going there to the big V in the 70s.
Yeah.
That was before we had the canyon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They said, oh, when we open up the canyon, that's gonna eliminate all the problems. Not necessarily.
No, that's,
The best
Eliminate
more than
downtown
eliminate.
problems.
I'll tell you, it didn't eliminate the problem.
Yeah, it just increased it, everything moved out.
I think Joe might have something to
Oh,
add.
I was sorry if it's not out of order. I was gonna say, when you were talking about quality infrastructure and kind of successes that this URA has done, one of the dogs that didn't bark in the last month that I should point out to all you is, you know, the big thunderstorm on June 9th. You know, URA essentially paid for half of a lot of that stormwater system upgrades, the match that we had to get with FEMA. We wouldn't have been able to do that without URA helping to bank that. And those whole neighborhoods downtown completely would have flooded the way that they used to
Yeah.
persistently
Yeah.
on that storm without those projects, and they didn't.
See, that needs to be,
Yeah, that's a good point.
we need that to get out. How do we do that best, Shannon?
Good point.
I mean, that's not Carol's wheelhouse, but, I mean, it is, but as a city employee, I don't know.
Connected to the URA.
See,
I'll think about it.
okay, okay. I mean, that's an important thing
Yeah.
for this group.
Yeah.
I really think so.
And then on East Orchard Sewer, the number we drilled it down to is like, the average house in that district is 5 times closer to public sewer than it was before the URA project. I mean, some of them are still fairly distant, but the average before the project was about 4,500 feet to where the closest public sewer was, and now it's under 900 for the average.
That's good.
That's cool.
That's really good.
To try to drill it down to something that you could tell someone in one sentence, it's like
Yes.
5 times closer.
That's good.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any comments? No? Yes.
I'd make a motion to adjourn.
All right, I have a motion
Second.
and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passed.
And let's see, escape